Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and mental health educator. Welcome to the Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Today, you'll be hearing, what is it? It's episode 2 of the serialization of my book, When Going Through Hell, Don't Stop. And today we're going to hear part 1 of chapter 1. It's called The Descent into Hell. And it begins by describing how I was plummeted into a major depression by a personal loss and a bad reaction to an antidepressant.
Chapter 1 The Descent into Hell. My experience of falling into a major depression. The journey to higher awareness is not a direct flight. Challenges, struggles, and tests confront the traveler along the way. Eventually, no matter who you are or how far you have come along the path, you must experience your dark night of the soul. Douglas Bloch, Words That Heal. The notebook by the side of my bed was finally being put to use. Given to me by a friend so that I could record my dreams, the lined yellow paper had remained untouched for months, as my sleeping medication had made dream recollection all but impossible. Oh well, I mused. It won't matter much after today. I looked out the window. What greeted me was another of those oppressive Oregon winter skies that moves in like an unwanted house guest at the beginning of November and doesn't depart until the 1st of July. The black clouds overhead mirrored those inside my mind. I was suffering from a mental disorder known as clinical depression. Slowly, I reached for the pen and began to write. To my friends and family, November 12, 1996. I know that this is wrong, but I can no longer endure the pain of living with this mental illness. Further hospitalizations will not help, as my condition is too deep-seated and advanced to uproot. On some deeper level, I know that my work on the planet is finished, and that it is time to move on. Douglas. I reached over for the bottle of pills that I had secretly saved for this occasion, slowly twisted off the cap, and imagined the sweet slumber that awaited me. My reverie was interrupted by a loud knock at the front door. Who can that be? I wondered. Can't a man commit suicide in peace? I turned over in bed and spied my friend Stuart entering the living room. Just thought I'd check up on you to see if you made it off to day treatment, he said cheerfully as he made his way across my bedroom. I quickly hid the pills, wondering if I should tell Stuart about my note. Meanwhile, I could feel the stirrings of another anxiety attack. It began with the involuntary twitching of my legs, then violent shaking, until my whole body went into convulsions. Not able to contain the huge amount of energy that was surging through me, I jumped out of bed and began to pace. Back and forth, I stumbled across the living room, hitting myself on the head and screaming, "Electric shock for Douglas Bloch! Electric shock for Douglas Bloch!" I had not always been so disturbed. Just 10 weeks earlier, on September 4, 1996, I had taken a new Prozac-related medication in the hopes of alleviating a 2-year chronic low-grade depression, which was brought on by a painful divorce and a bad case of writer's block. Instead of mellowing me out, however, the drug produced an adverse reaction, a state of intense agitation known as akathisia that catapulted me into the psychiatric ward of a local hospital. It soon became clear that taking this antidepressant had created a permanent shift in my mind and body. Before ingesting the drug, I felt crummy, but not crazy, emotionally down, but still able to function. My suffering was intense, but not enough to disable me, not enough to make me suicidal. Now I had entered a whole new realm of torment. The drug's assault on my brain caused something inside me to snap, sending me into an emotional freefall and creating a life-threatening biochemical disorder. The closest analogy I can use to describe my state is that I was on a bad LSD trip, except that I didn't come down after the customary 8 hours. In fact, the nightmare was just beginning. There were two things about my predicament that made it different from anything else I had ever experienced. One was the sheer intensity of the pain, and two was its seeming non-stop assault on my nervous system. During my hospitalization, I discovered that my official diagnosis was major depression, combined with a generalized anxiety disorder. What follows is what I learned about my diagnosis when I asked my doctor about these terms. Major depression. If there is a hell on earth, it is to be found in the heart of a melancholy man. Robert Burton, 17th century English scholar. Before I describe my own experience of major depression, also known as clinical depression, I would like to delineate the difference between the medical term clinical depression and the word depression as it is commonly used. Many people say they are depressed when they experience some disappointment or a personal setback. For example, if the stock market drops, if they fail to get a raise, or if there's trouble at home with the kids. While I would never want to minimize anyone's pain, clinical depression takes these kinds of suffering to a whole new level, making such hurts as these feel more like a mild sunburn by comparison. Major depression can be distinguished from the blues of everyday life in that a depressive illness is a whole body disorder involving one's physiology, biochemistry, mood, thoughts, and behavior. Major depression affects the way you eat and sleep, the way you think and feel about yourself, others, and the world. Clinical depression is not a passing blue mood or a sign of personal weakness. Subtle changes inside the brain's chemistry create a terrible malaise in the body, mind, spirit that can affect every dimension of one's being. When one is clinically depressed, the capacity for, and the memory of, pleasure vanishes. The best that one can hope for is a kind of negative happiness that results from the temporary absence of distress. Life fluctuates between the horrible and the miserable. A sense of humor, that wonderful analgesic that existed even among some concentration camp prisoners, is completely absent. My friends marked the beginning of my depression as when I lost the ability to laugh. Even though depression is called a mood disorder, mood is only one of the many bodily functions that are disrupted by a disorganized, misfiring brain. Eating and sleeping are disrupted, as is the sex drive, and energy levels dwindle so low that even the simplest task can seem impossible. As one sufferer from depression said, filling the sugar bowl can be like climbing Mount Everest. The pain of depression. I am now the most miserable man living. If what I feel were equally distributed to the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face on earth. Abraham Lincoln. Describing the pain of depression, especially to someone who has never been there, is not easy. I remember a diagram from my high school biology class depicting what happens when you put your hand on a hot stove. The nerve receptors in the skin send a message up the arm and spinal column to the brain, which interprets the situation as, ouch, that's hot. The brain then sends a message back down the spine, telling the hand to remove itself from the burner. All of this takes place in a fraction of a second. The pain of depression is not so easy to track. It cannot be described as stabbing, shooting, or burning. Neither can its sensations be localized to any one part of the body. It is an all-encompassing malignancy, an excruciating pain that slowly permeates every fiber of one's being. The pain of depression is not only agonizing, it is also chronic, persistent, and seemingly unremitting, like having an emotional toothache. In the past, if I were in a funk, the simplest way to improve my condition would be to enjoy the beauty of nature. For this reason, I was taken aback when, on a beautiful summer's day, as I hiked in a pristine old-growth forest, my mind persisted in contemplating suicide. When asked by Art Buchwald whether his depression was improved by being in the country, William Styron replied, "It's all the same. You're carrying the thing around with you. It's like a crucifixion. It doesn't matter where you are. Nothing in the outer world can alter it. You could be in the sublimest place you could possibly imagine. For example, Mike Wallace went down to St. Martin, which is a wonderfully attractive place, but he had his darkest moments there." As Styron knew only too well, there is little respite from the hell of a major depression. You cannot curl up in bed with a few good videos, eat some chicken soup, and expect to feel better in 7 to 10 days. Unlike most physical ailments, clinical or major depression does not improve with rest. Being alone in bed actually makes matters worse, as the mind turns further inwards and tortures itself with imaginary demons. The only other option is to get up, soldier on throughout the day, become one of the walking wounded.
This is Douglas Bloch. I hope you enjoyed listening to this part of my book. If you did so, please give the video a like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section, or you can email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page, where you can click on the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell up to the right or next to it, you'll be notified every time I make a new video or do a live chat. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you.